We are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon, which is creating a growth culture in your office and getting everyone accountable for success. And I am joined by the fabulous Sally Lawson this afternoon. Hi, Sally. And the incredible Andy Halstead. Andy, hello, welcome. Guys, just for the people watching who might not know who you are, maybe you could give us a little quick elevator conversation about who you are, what's your name, where'd you come from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the chief executive of Barben. Most people listening to this will recognize us through our trading brands, really, which are Home Let, Rent for Sure, Let Alliance, and then we have a direct-to-landlord insurance business called UK Insurance Net. But the real brands that people will know will be Home Let Alliance, and Rent for Sure. In the last couple of years, we've brought those three brands together, and we're starting to operate as a single business, developing a single proposition with now around 1 million references a year in terms of our market share. So quite a significant volume business that we've built, based predominantly in Lincoln and in Chester.
So big business. So it'd be fair to say you've probably had your wealth of experience in terms of creating teams, creating culture, growing, bringing people together. So we've got a fantastic wealth of knowledge here with Andy. So thank you, Andy, for joining us. And Sally, just in case people aren't sure who you are. Sally, who are you?
Okay, my name is Sally Lawson, 32 years as a letting agent in the industry, former franchisor, former ALA president, author, speaker, coach. I love jumping on stage and helping people. My mission is to get letting agents to a 50% profit margin standard, which is a huge goal. And we're miles off, but hopefully we can get there. So that is my mission. So that's who I am.
Well, fantastic. Well, guys, thank you for joining us today and thank you for being here. We want to talk today about transforming people's businesses, creating an A-player team, making sure people stick and make sure people want to work together and stay with you. That's really the key, because I mean, working with agents day in, day out, one of the main costs and the main bugbears and the main moans that we get is recruitment, is getting people on board, training them, having them stay, having them on the same sort of path as you, wanting to stay the course, your vision being their vision. And I think one of the most costly things to a business is actually recruitment and holding on to staff and retraining them and losing them and all that. So really, really important to have here. I'm going to start with the first topic about how to create that culture in your business and how to attract the right staff, and then obviously how to keep them, really. So Sally, creating that culture, what's your advice for people listening?
I think culture is one of those things that, as a small business, when you first start out, it's a bit like, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time to focus on culture. But actually, as you were developing businesses, you'll no doubt hear from Andy, because he's built so many businesses, massive businesses as well. Culture is actually one of the most important things in a business. It's the bloodline. It's the veins that go through the business, and your culture and how you get that business culture going is down to how you are as a business owner and as a business management team as well. So I think the key thing to first of all consider is, what do you want as a business culture? What sort of culture do you want? Are you all friendly and relaxed? Is it professional, authoritarian? What sort of culture do you want? And the way we sort of do that is really try and make sure it's all about the team. The team has its goals, the team has its targets, the team has its rewards, the team has its objectives. Each of the members within that team is seen as experts and authorities in their specific field, and their job is to drive the whole company towards that one specific task. And there's nothing like seeing a team taking itself towards a target using its own knowledge and expertise. As a business owner, it's so powerful. I'm not saying they're autonomous, they still need me, I'm still there, but really the power is within the team. So I think it's giving everybody that individuality, but also that collective responsibility to focus as a team.
Andy, in your vast experience, how have you found building a culture? What sort of things have you guys done? Have you put into place in your vast experience in some quite massive companies in our industry over the years?
I do agree with what Sally just said about a team approach, but for me, you got to pay people right. Let's cut to the chase here. The vast majority of people go to work for money, and it's crucially important to their families that they can earn the amount of money that they need to earn to have a nice life. And especially in times like this, I mean, we're in really difficult times, and if people aren't being paid properly, then that's going to create a lot of stress in their family life. And we all know that when people have got those sorts of issues to deal with at home, they're not necessarily focused on doing the job as well as they can. So getting the pay right for me is important. That's salaries, but it's also the performance related pay, so that we get everybody pointing in the same direction. And if the business does well, then our team members should do well. And we have a great track record in paying people well and paying good bonuses to people. So that's important. For me, moving the decision making as close to the customer as possible also really helps you create an environment where people feel that they're valued, because they are valued. It's one thing for me to be making decisions about what we should do with customers. It's a much more viable thing for our organization to listen to the people who are on the phones every day, taking calls from customers, understand what customers are happy with and understand what customers are unhappy with, and have a voice in the business so they get listened to. And then we make decisions based on that, rather than a good idea somewhere in a boardroom, which it often is well removed from the way that customers think. We've got two large centres in Chester and in Lincoln. It's important that reputationally you're sound, that people say good things about you locally, especially when you're trying to attract talent. You know, people know who works in our businesses in our areas, because we've got 600 people. So it's very important that you have a good reputation, and then when people talk about you, they talk about good things. And when you don't get things right, fix them, because we don't get everything right. And I think really important to create that culture where people want to be is when you do have a problem, for God's sake, fix it. Just don't allow it to run on.
Sally, what sort of things have you done in your businesses over the years to create this team? Because from what Andy's saying, it's obviously making sure that people have been heard, that obviously every position is valued and that filters up to the top. Also making sure that the money's right, of course, keeping people happy. But what else can you do to create that sort of sense of team, which I think is so important to have everyone driving on the same page?
I think as a business owner, one of your core requirements, your core needs, is to have a team that stays with you. The cost of losing members of staff and having this rotation, the revolving door, it's just hugely expensive and so disruptive both to the client, the customer, and your business and your turnover. So it's really important that you put things in place. Of course, salary is absolutely spot on. I agree, you should be the highest payer in the town. But it's also about making sure there's a few things that make you a little bit more sticky. And one of the things I like in our businesses is that we really focus on two things, is really bringing the team together, but also having fun. And so we've always done little things, silly little things, whether it be like we'll turn the events room upstairs into a movie night, or the branch staff will all go out for a meal. And when someone does a best ever, hits a record or does something really good, they'll go out for a meal and celebrate together. We've taken some of our top landlords out to the Molyneux, which is a local football ground that we have. Don't chase me over the Wolverhampton thing, but it's the local football ground. So we'd take people out for a night out there and take our 10 top clients, supporting local charity events and having tables and taking the staff and customers out to that as well. We've also, when we had a record-breaking month, we did 54 lets in 1 month. I said, if you get over 50 lets, I will take you all to the Hyatt 5-star hotel for the weekend, all expenses paid. I thought they'll never do it. And they did. It cost me a fortune, but you know what a weekend, and people still talk about it now. So it's finding ways to bring people together. Something else that we've done more recently is that we've now strongly encouraged people to take a lunch break. And I know in the old days, Andy probably remembers this, when people used to close for an hour at lunchtime and have a lunch break, and then it became everyone eats at their desk. Well, we've actually brought the lunch break back. And so we've actually got a dedicated time during the day where they stop and have lunch and sit together and eat and actually celebrate just being together and get to know each other. And that's been absolutely pivotal to bringing the team together. Something else we've actively encouraged across the businesses as well is actually including free food. So, and this is something we trialed about 4 years ago, and I thought everyone's going to take advantage of it, but actually they haven't. And it's been great. People love the fact that the snacks available, there's lunches available, and they can sit and have that time together without popping out to stand in a queue for ages. Lunch is prepared for you, and that really has made a massive difference. You'll see them having something to eat and then sitting and playing cards together and yakety-yakking about what they're doing. It's a real time to just be together as a team. So it depends on the size of your business and really, you know, where you are in your business, but the more you can do to pull the team together really will work. And also we've added a few other things like life insurance, you know, company life insurance, which they seem to really enjoy, and also things like free medical cover. And even something else that we haven't done in all of our businesses is, but we are looking to spread it across, is share options as well. So trying to find ways to make your business more sticky. Because we had a conversation with a member of staff a couple of months ago, and he said, I've been looking elsewhere. And I said, okay. I said, well, when you're looking elsewhere, that extra £2,000 or £3,000 you might earn doing that over there, consider the trips, the social engagements, the free food, the medical insurance, and all those sort of different things. And all of a sudden you'll realize it's a very different prospect when you're looking elsewhere. So I think those things just make you a little bit more sticky, if that makes sense.
Just playing devil's advocate here, I'm going to bring Andy in on here. So all of this sounds lovely, but it sounds, I'm just, you know, wearing my sort of black hat here, you know, very social. I'm giving people time and going out together and having, you know, what some people might perceive as a jolly. Is you know, how does this help people to be driving on the same page? And for me, it comes down to that one word about making people accountable. Because as Sally said here, and you know, she alluded to the fact that she's done this when people have hit targets, or when there's been something that's been, you know, a BHAG that they might not never get to, or that, you know, that they might do sort of thing. It's about rewarding. Andy, talk a little bit about how you keep people accountable, because it's all about rewarding and paying well and, you know, and celebrating the staff. But we've got to make sure that we're keeping people accountable, but they've got to be accountable to themselves, haven't they, really, for this culture to really work?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, setting sensible targets is a good start. Unrealistic targets just turns everybody off. You know, you set out in the year to achieve a set of numbers, and if by the end of January you know you've got no chance, then all you're doing is setting yourself up for a miserable year. So my very strong advice would be set sensible targets that people can actually achieve. The market turns against you. Don't be set in stone. Change those targets, because if the environment around you changes and you're chasing a number that becomes impossible, then what is the point? Likewise, if there's an opportunity to significantly exceed the target, then make sure that we go for that as well. But I just think keeping that sensible approach to the numbers so that people they actually believe, look, we can do this and we can do it together. So the bonuses that we run are based on the performance of the business. And if the business achieves what we set out to achieve over the year, including reforecasts as things change, then people earn that bonus. Everybody earns it. So, you know, it's not just the sales guys who are earning their commission every day, but the people in our finance team or our HR team or our IT team all benefit because the business is performing at the level that, you know, we believe is a good performance. And, you know, you've got to remember, we spend a lot of time at work. And if we really want to retain people, because the competition are always coming in for our people, and it would be pretty horrible if they didn't, because it would mean we had an inadequate bunch of people working in our organization, and we certainly don't, because we got the competitors chasing our people all the time, and that's okay. It keeps us sharp and it keeps us focused on doing the best that we can. But we spend a lot of time at work, so make it fun, make it as much fun as you can. We've got to do the job, but celebrate successes as often as possible. And the last couple of years have been horrible. You know, people not being allowed to go out. We've all got through that now, and it does appear that it's over, and we can start enjoying life again. And we're certainly doing as much of that as we can. Saturday coming is our summer party here in Chester. 3 weeks later, it's our summer party in Lincoln, and so on and so forth. And just team events, going out for dinner, going out for lunch, celebrating small successes along the way to making sure the year is a success is very important. I think the other thing for me around, you know, what we're talking about, which is building a great culture, is allow people to take risks. And when they get it wrong, just fix it. Celebrate the fact that they took a chance to make the business better. I'm talking about sensible risks here, obviously. And no retribution for getting it wrong, none whatsoever. You know, a blame culture is awful because people then just hide away because it's safer. But to create an environment where people can take a chance, do something different, suggest a different way of working, And if that works out, great, you can reward it. But if it doesn't, then you're not making that person feel foolish or bad. Again, for me, is really important. In the environment, sorry, I'm just going to say one other thing. People make friends at work. And if you've got that going on, then it's harder to leave, because you're not just leaving your job, you're leaving your friends. So again, it's all of those things in the mix help create a business that you can then grow.
Absolutely. I really like the balance there that you're talking about, of obviously, you're rewarding the individuals on the team effort. So on the growth of the business as a whole, because understanding that everyone's piece to the puzzle, or everyone's a cog in the wheel, helping you get to that. But then also championing people's individual responsibility, because that's equally as important, that people, as Sally says, becomes expert in their own individual fields, because the better they are, the better they're going to be to help make up that overall picture. Sally, that must come down to personal development and training as well. As a business owner, your responsibility to ensure that that's happening, I presume.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this in, because I think it's a nice tie into what Andy's just said, and he's absolutely spot on. When it comes to training and development, we've always really focused, and I know a lot of bosses are different, and I know we're all different as human beings, but I've always tried to employ the best person I could for that job, even if that person was better than me, which is great if they're better than me. Whereas I've seen a lot of employers try to recruit lesser talent because they're cheaper, or they don't want the competition internally or whatever. And then they spend months and months trying to pull that person up to sufficient standard. So as Andy was saying, try and recruit the best that you possibly can, pay the best wages. But then beyond that, you then need to continue to expect the best. And that's where the accountability comes in. And the way I've always done it is I really make the individual accountable for their own self-development. So, for example, they will be informed these are all the trainings that are on in their quarterly one-to-ones. It will be, I would recommend you do this, get yourself booked on, do this is what I want you to do. I will ask them, in order for you to be better at that, what training do you need for that? Let me support you. We spend thousands on training in order to get people to be better. But the responsibility for that training is on the individual, and it actually sets a very big warning signal to me. If you've offered all the training and you've told them what you recommend that they do and they don't do it, to me, that is like an alarm bell going. Because I'm sure Andy's had the same thing here. I've been in business 32 years, and we've got people that have been with us 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And I've had the situation where people have not kept themselves up to date. And in the end, they become completely ineffective in their job. And what do you do about that? So if someone's completely ineffective in the job, the only thing you can do is let them go. So from that lesson, I've learned that we have to make sure that each of the individuals absolutely embraces learning, loves learning, wants to learn, particularly with Roper coming. This is never more important than ever before. You have to have a team of people that are prepared to develop themselves, to stay ahead and stay in tune and stay in line with what the business needs. So I do that through one-to-ones, setting the goals, setting the targets, asking them what they need, working on this together, setting a plan, giving them the opportunity to get that training from whatever source that may be, and then letting them run with it. And what I expect from them is, if you're the lister, you're the expert at listing. If you are the administrator, you are the expert admin. If you're a tenancy manager, I want you to name all the legislation, all the acts and the grounds of possession and everything else. I want you to be the expert in that thing. And maybe not on the day we take you on, but certainly within 12 to 18 months, that's what I'm expecting. And we set that expectation, make them aware of that expectation, give them access to all the training, advise which route they go on, but then leave them to make that responsibility. I know that's a little bit different to what most people do, but that's how I do it. And they then feel empowered that they've made those decisions and they've achieved those things. And then what happens is the rest of the team will refer to them because they're the expert in that and they're the expert in that. So everybody will refer to them as the expert rather than everybody coming to me. And one of the biggest complaints business owners have in the letting agency sphere is, I've got 13 staff and they all ask me the questions. Well, the question I always bounce back is, well, have you empowered them? Have you trained them? Have you given them an area of responsibility? And as Andy said, have you allowed them to run with that, as in make mistakes and build that process themselves? Because if not, then of course they're going to keep running to you. So my thing is empower people, empower the individual, give them access to coaching and training, advise them, but let them take control of it. And if they don't, it's actually sending a very big sign to yourself as a business owner.
Just speaking, as obviously I work alongside Sally, and so obviously part of the business here. And one of the things that I think that we do incredibly well is take staff to various training events and put pay money and invest in the staff to train. But what's quite nice is everyone sits in their own seat, so everyone has their own speciality. So if we all go to an event, we have a great time as a team. As Andy says, we eat together and we do have fun, and we're like a little family and friends and things like that. But everyone looks at the training through different eyes. So the videographer will look at it like that, or the sales person might look at it like that, so that you can come together and pool your ideas and pool your responsibilities and that kind of thing. Because moving seamlessly on to our next sort of note here is, how do you get the team pulling for a common cause? Because that's really surely how your business is going to really flourish and push ahead, is having that team that really are focused all on the same sort of individual goal. Andy, how do you guys work this in your businesses?
So I think there's three groups in most businesses. One quite controversial, but I'll talk about it anyway. The first group is that group of people who want to progress. They're ambitious. They want to grow. They want to achieve as much as they possibly can in their career. Run the business one day, whatever it might be. You've got a group of people who just want to get in on time, do the job well, and go home on time because they've got lots of important other things in their life. And actually their working career is not a thing. They want a job. They want to earn well. They want to do a job well. And that's also fine. And then you've got the group that don't actually want to be in your business, but they're there anyway. Because either they can't get a job anywhere else or it's convenient for them. And you've got to find that group and change them or change them. And that's also very important, because having terrorists in the camp is unhelpful. It undermines. But I think if you can get that right, then you're not expecting people to do things that they don't want to do. You're going to allow them to fulfill their ambitions, whatever they may be. So you've got people who want to grow. You've got to make sure that you do all the right things to help them get to wherever that is. You've got people who just want to do the job. Well, great. Look after them, pay them well. Customers love those kind of people because they've got continuity, they're experienced, and they're learning. I get asked regularly, what's your plan for me, Andy? And I think, bloody hell, I haven't got a plan for me. You've got to be a self-starter also. And you've got to invest in yourself. You can deliver training all you like, but if the person's not in receive mode and doesn't actually want to learn, then you've got a problem. So I think just, understanding that and having a management and a leadership team that really gets that and then gets close to the guys who are doing the jobs every day, I think helps you create that kind of organization. And once you've got a bunch of self-starters in your team, then you're really flying.
So key thing is, once you say, as you've got identify those people, the right people in the right places, understanding the expectations, understanding people's motivations. We talked at the beginning here about it being a hugely costly exercise to keep recruiting and training. So how do we then keep these people? How do we keep them in-house, Sally? How do we keep them staying alongside us, rowing the ship in the right direction? Because we've invested a lot in them, as you say. People start to get to like each other, know each other. The team become a family. But how do we hold on to these people?
I think if I was to sum that up in one sentence, it's something I've always done, is get people to see their future with you. And the way that I've always done that is by asking a lot of questions. So on the one-to-one, I'd be saying, so what is it you want to achieve? Where do you want to go with this? Now, I found with this question, particularly here in the Midlands, a lot of people have never been asked that, and they struggle with that sometimes. So you might have to ask 2 or 3 times. You may have tears and people running off. I don't know. I never thought about it, running off. But I've always loved asking that question. Where is it you want to go? What is it you want? Because I need to get into your head and to identify whether you want to be a film star or a rock star and not be working here, or whether you want to be a branch manager, lettings manager, area manager, trainer. What is it you want? Oh, you secretly want to work in accounts? Has that been your thing, Kate, that you've always wanted to do? It's about getting under your head and into your head and identifying what each of your staff actually want. And I pride myself in really getting to the bottom of what people want. And then what you do is, once you know what that person wants, is you have a think and you figure out how that future that they want looks like working for you. So I can remember Dawn Bennett 15 years ago saying to me, no, 12 years ago, saying to me, I want to be an area manager, and I want a BMW, sorry, not an Audi, BMW soft top. And I was right, okay, so what do you need to do to get there? And she says, well, I need to learn to drive, first of all. I says, yes, you do. And I need to learn to manage people. I says, yes, you do. I says, anything else? And she didn't come up with an answer. I says, perhaps the anger management? She went, oh, yes, I suppose. I know what you mean. But we built a plan for her to be that. And as you know, she's far superseded that. She's now co-director and compliance officer, which is phenomenal. So it's just about finding what that person wants and then saying, well, actually, we're going to need branch managers. We're going to need trainers. We're going to need coaches. We're going to need directors. This is what we want. And if you could do X, Y, and Z, I see you in that position, but we need to get you there. And so you take their dream, their goal, what they want, you identify it as, you figure out how that matches into your business, and then you work on them. You don't just go, right, I'm going to make you director today then, and they just started yesterday. But you say, right, well, to get to that, you're going to have to be here 5 years. We're going to have to work on this. You're going to have to work on that. Let's build a progression plan on how we get there, and it's down to them whether they do it. Remember, it's down to them to be accountable for them to take the training. If you push someone down there, down a route, it might not actually be where they want to go. And I can remember one lady saying to me once, I want to be on stage, I want to be a speaker like you, I want to be traveling the UK. And I said, no, you don't. I said, I know what you want to do. You want to move to Spain and you want to go and live the quiet life. And she says, yes, I know. And actually 3 months later, she left and she moved to Spain and she's now living the quiet life. So sometimes be aware, sometimes people will tell you what they think you want to hear. It's actually getting down to the truth of what people actually want and then putting that into your plan. And if somebody knows that with you, that's going to be the goal, that's their goal, it's your goal, and you put the two together, they're not going anywhere as long as you stay on that plan.
Andy, you talk about being obviously, having the people in the town that, that everyone wants to work for and that kind of thing. How have you done that? How have you kept good people? What's your your method for doing this within your businesses?
Well, I guess you can't keep everyone, so accept that. And if people do a great job whilst they're with you and you enjoy that journey together, it's okay that they move on, and accept that, because you simply can't keep everyone. The other thing that I find very insightful is when someone leaves, have a post-mortem, find out why. Why did they go? Now, we might lose someone who works in referencing because what they really wanted to be was a nurse, and actually we were a really good stopgap for them, and when that person was here they did a great job, but they've moved on to something that they really wanted to do. Terrific. And what would you ever do but wish them well? You would never hold someone back like that. But equally, we lose people because they're not happy. Now that's a different thing altogether, and finding out why they're not happy is very important. And sometimes that's quite disturbing, and the bigger the business gets, the less I know what's going on sometimes day to day in the detail. And I think having those postmortems really helps you learn and try and fix things that are making people walk out of the door. You got to get the money right. I know I keep saying that, but it is really important. What you can't do is you can't account for perhaps irrational competitive behavior. And you do have to accept sometimes that a member of your teams are going to get an offer. You don't want to lose that person, but the offer that's been made is so powerful that if you were to respond, you'd completely destabilize your business. So you just got to accept that from time to time also. And also put yourself in that person's position. What would you do if someone came along and, you're earning £30,000 a year and someone came along and offered you 50? You would take it. And that's all right. That's all right too. But for the vast majority, we do get it right. And we get it right because we're listening, and we're constantly fixing the things that people say need to be fixed to make the environment an environment that they want to be in. So having very regular roundtable meetings with people from all sorts of different jobs across the organization and just listening to what they have to say is phenomenal insight. And then it allows you to get the management group together and discuss how can we fix this so that people are really enjoying the time whilst they're here.
I think for personally, one of the things that helps people stick is really to make sure you're recruiting well. I feel that quite often the churn and the people sort of in and out of the business is really, if I'm, is the start. It starts at the recruitment, because quite often people are, time poor. They need to fill a seat. They've not really looked at what that role is. When you've fully mapped out what that role is and what the responsibilities and requirements of the role, you can really get a good idea of what sort of person you want. And I feel we quite often, and have done in the past, is recruit on just what the job role is, whereas now actually recruiting on sort of personality and culture fit is certainly really, really important. That's something that Sally really pushes with us here, is that you can train a process, you can train a system, you can usually train someone to do most things, but what you can't train is personality, and you can't train culture fit, and you can't train those kind of things. So really making sure that you have a really good idea of what sort of person you want, because as Andy says, we spend about 86% of our time at work, when we're creating friendships, and that work-life balance has never been more important, and people are choosing to spend time with each other. And what you can't do is change the inner being of someone, can you really? So that's got to be where it starts, right?
Well, I think, Kate, it's fair to say that hard work trumps talent every time. And there's no point in being the most talented person in the team that never turns up. And I completely agree. Recruitment on personality, on character, those are the things that make the business rich. Not someone who has done the job before and therefore qualifies. In fact, quite the opposite.
It's really funny, actually, because over the years you hear the opposite, don't you? So often you hear, don't just give someone the job because you like them, that kind of thing. And actually, I have to say personally, I feel like that would be the way I would go now over anything else. Sally, would you agree?
Well, as you know, Kate, this is something we've spent a lot of time on. Mm-hmm. So for the last, I'd say about 2 years now, I think I'm right on that timescale. We've actually turned recruitment on its head. And the old days, you put an advert on
Indeed.
Thank you. I was desperate to say LinkedIn then. An advert on Indeed, and you set it to play, and you'll end up with 200-300 CVs, of which there's people from all walks of life, most of which are not suitable or experienced enough, or whatever the case may be. You try your best to read your way through 300 CVs. But fail miserably, and somewhere in the end up going, has anybody got any friends? Anybody? And that we all know that doesn't work, and that's not the way to recruit. So we turned it on its head, and we actually made it so that we still advertise on Indeed, but then they have to go through an online application process where they have to tell us why they should work for us. They fill out an application form, they send us validation forms, they answer all the culture fit questions. And once they've gone through all that process, which from 300, you'd end up with about 30 out of 300, about 10%. Then the ones that are successful at that point, we then put through to a culture fit interview, just 15 minutes culture fit interview. Again, that was half, still end up with about 15 calls. And from that, you'll be able to select your people. By turning it on its head, where they chase us, they call us, they respond to us, they tell us why they want to work for us, it absolutely filters out the right people from the wrong people. And through the process, you make them watch your videos or read your content or learn about the company. And they have to tell you why they want to work for you, Sally, at Concentric Lettings, not the stock answer that you get at interviews these days. Why do you want to work for our letting agency? I always wanted to work in property. They actually tell you why they want to work for you. And honestly, it's been life transformational since then, because started to believe there wasn't anybody on Indeed, that was nobody out there looking, but actually we've recruited listers, negotiator, administrator, a BDM, business development manager for the branch. I know you've recruited a couple of salespeople for your business here, Kate. So we've recruited so many people. That's just this year so far, those people we just recruited this year using that method. And it takes 10% of the time that it used to take, and it really filters through the right people. And I think that's through making culture and expectation part of the recruitment process, that you chase me and you tell me why you should work for me. It just gets rid of all the people that are just clicking the button to get their quotas up. So transformational, really, really important.
I think embedding that culture into the recruitment process is very important. I mean, we've got people here I know that have seen the ads and seen the funnels and seen the videos that we put for the recruitment and been genuinely excited to work here. And I think that's got to be important with the competition out there for jobs, and people, as you say, could be working anywhere and that kind of thing. You want to make sure your company is the place that people want to work, that it's fun, that it's inspiring, that there's some sort of journey. I think looking at a stat before we were putting this webinar together, that actually 54% of people will now choose a job over culture rather than just money. And I think the last few years have really turned that on its head, because people have had a much bigger exposure to work-life balance, because people have been at home a lot. We've all been at home a lot, and then sort of going back to being amongst people is what most people want to do. However, getting that balance right and respecting people's lives, as Andy says, is equally as important, isn't it? I think, and making sure that is at the mouth of recruitment's got to be able to help you stick people. Andy, how do you guys sort of fit that in terms of your recruitment and holding on to staff?
Well, the world's changed, hasn't it? And it's not going to go back the last 2 years. So having a large group of people in Lincoln and in Chester, up until recently, the only place that those guys would ever move to would be another place in Lincoln or Chester. That's not the case anymore. And recruitment now is a national thing. If you find the right person, it kind of doesn't matter where they live. You can work with them. I'm old, and I'm therefore old-fashioned, and a lot of me still believes that the office environment is a really good place for people. That interaction with other team members, the whole social thing, for me is extremely important. But I completely accept that the world is changing. So we've developed a hybrid working model, for want of a better word, where people who can demonstrate that they're productive and that they do the job and are trusted team members, if they want to work from home some of the working week, so be it. Who am I to say you can't do that when it is clearly possible that you can? I think working from home all of the time is a bit of an issue for me. I think never coming into the office and not being part of the culture of the business there's a line there that I would draw. But just accepting that things have changed, things will continue to change. I used to work in an organization who sold life insurance products all over the world. And every marketing meeting that I attended, every product development meeting that I attended, had a person from the generation that we wanted to sell that product to. And we wanted to sell it to everyone. So you had someone in the late teens, 20s, someone in the 30s, 40s, 50s, right through to retire. And it was a brilliant thing because it made you think about what you're doing from everyone else's perspective, not your own. And if you limit your decision making, if you limit your recruitment, if you limit the development of the culture of your business to your own personal experience, then you're really missing a trick. And I think understanding that and embracing that is making a difference. So you see, it's not too late to teach an old dog new tricks.
I think we had a question actually from Louise, and I hope that's slightly answered her. She's wondering whether anyone had implemented a flexible work-life balance, same as Ollie Lawson, talking about perhaps a 4-day week and actually working longer hours on those 4 days, but having that day off. And I think you touched on it a little bit there, but surely it's possible, right?
Yeah, and quite specifically on that question. Of course, you can do those things, and of course, we should consider those things. But we need to be open, and we need to be functional and on our game when our customers are open. So it's no good. It's not if you're a customer service team member who really wants to work from 7 o'clock at night till 3 a.m. It's not going to happen because our customers are not open. So you got to stay realistic and but sure, I mean. If people are doing the job well, if the productivity is there and the trust is there and people are not letting you down, they're working from home and, not catching up with the ironing, that sort of thing, then why would you not? Why would you not allow it if it makes people feel better, they're doing the job well, and it makes them happier? 4-day working week, that's really difficult if you're a customer-facing type business because you've got to be open all of the hours that the customers are open. And we work in a seasonal marketplace as well, where, we know the summer months are outrageously busy for letting agents, and we've got to make sure that we are working around the clock then. And when things go quieter, then we're able to do more development and what have you. So, yeah, you've got to be flexible for certain.
Sally, a few tips on, because obviously we've all been through a couple of years now of managing people at home and then managing people, some people coming back, some people not coming back. And I think, as Andy said, it's got to be down to trust and accountability again. Any tips for people who want to put in a bit more of a flexibility on how to sort of, keep an eye on them's the wrong word, but ensure that the business is remaining as productive as it could be?
Yeah, well, as you know, Kate, we actually have quite a lot of staff that actually work from home or flexible. All of our tenancy managers have the option to work from home or come into the office. Most of them choose to work from home and come into the office 1 day a week. Our business development managers can choose to work from home, and they tend to do a mixture of working from home, working in the office. I know you've got a salesperson that lives up north somewhere. They don't even know where it is. So yes, people can work from home and work from here. And one of the things we did notice this year with our recruitment was that we had to sell the job a little bit more. So I think now with our job ads, we can't use the old job ads we used to have. We need to consider, can we consider flexible working? Can we consider more flexible hours, more flexible days? Can we consider working from home, working in the office, a mixture of the two? We learned during those crazy 2 years we've just been through that we can manage that. We use something called Active Track, which is uploaded onto their machine, so we can see everything they're doing at every minute of the day. And it can even give us productivity reports at the end of the day as well, like 97% active or whatever the case may be, and how many keystrokes and all those sort of different things. So we really can be working anywhere. And I absolutely agree with the question from Louise. We do need to really sell the jobs now. It used to be about lettings negotiator required, must be able to drive, basic car commission. It now has to be a lot different. Think about how you look to the outside world. Think about your ad, what you're offering. Think about the extra benefits. Think about the salary, the payroll, the culture. Talk about the culture. Talk about the opportunities. Talk about the training. Talk about the lunches, the nights out, all those sort of different things. You really do have to sell it. You do have to work it a little bit more. So yeah, very good points raised there.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today. I hope that we have given you all watching an insight in hoping to create that growth culture within your business, keeping those staff, training those staff, incentivizing those staff, because as I said, 54% of people looking for work now are choosing based on culture. So we've got to up our games a bit here, guys. We've got to up our games and, wanting that A player team moving into the future. We've got to do that. Any final words from you, Andy? Thank you so much for being here today.
Just thank you. And it's great to talk to a group of letting agents. That's why we exist, to help letting agents. So thanks for the opportunity.
Pleasure. Sally, any final words?
I think culture is the thing. First of all, get your culture mapped out. Ours is clear. Communication, learning, education, adding value in relationships. Those are our culture. Find out what yours is and then stick with it. And if you interview someone and it doesn't seem like they're going to fit in your culture map, then don't recruit them. Really recruit on culture. It really is the next big thing. And if you've just, it's not my thing, maybe it's time to switch it on, because it will make a big difference to your business.
Absolutely. We all want to love where we work, and then we'll end up staying, creating that family environment, creating people that are going to stay and be on the same journey as you. It surely is a success that will help you grow in the future. Thank you so much for being here, Andy Halstead. Thank you, Sally Lawson. From myself, thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.